Do you know what your name is?
Scott.
Okay. Do you know where you are?
I'm in front of my computer in Manitowoc, Wisconsin.
Okay. Do you know what day it is?
I don't.
Oh, okay.
But I haven't all week. Is that the point you're driving at?
Yes.
I don't know what happened. I lost an entire day.
You left it laying under the couch or something?
I don't know. It wasn't until yesterday that Allie finally said, I said something.
Mm-hmm.
And Allie said, I said something that included referring to like today, the day is Wednesday or the next day is Thursday or whatever. And she said, it's Thursday. I said, no, it's Wednesday. And I had to actually go in, pick up my iPhone and click it on and look at the date and look at the calendar. And I realized I lost an entire day somehow. I have been operating one day off, which is embarrassing because I built in the interest of getting myself back on task and, getting back to a regular daily routine. And as per your suggestion, I came up with a list of goals for the week that were achievable, and I laid them all out by date so that I had a deadline for each one. And I have been off one day accomplishing each of them.
Huh.
So, for example, sometime today, you're going to get a script for the word of the week that was supposed to be delivered yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is this similar to the one that was supposed to be delivered last week?
I have no idea. I had to finally reinstall Dropbox.
Oh, really?
And it's still like when I open, because I have the Dropbox app on my new computer.
Absolutely.
I use OneDrive for all of my stuff. So the only thing I use Dropbox for is the stuff that you and I work on together. This podcast and Word of the Week.
Okay.
Dropbox, if I go into the little Dropbox icon and look at the folder that way, it freezes and crashes every time. And it still does that. At least now I have got it to sync where I can save Word documents into Dropbox as long as I go through like the save as dialogue and get into Dropbox that way. But I can't access it through Windows Explorer.
That's weird.
Yeah, it is a little weird, don't you think? So yeah, that script, and let me tell you something. That was it was an ugly script. I had a hard time writing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that topic, because I've been playing with a couple of other scripts now. I think the topic of that script is going into the graveyard for a little while, and we'll have to come back some other time.
Okay.
So,
fair enough. It's probably just as well it's gone then.
Yeah, and it just no, I think it came out okay in the end, but I don't think I could reconstruct it.
All right.
So yeah, it didn't sync to the Dropbox, and I thought I had at least finished it and maybe forgot to put it in the Dropbox or forgot to send it over to you.
Right.
But no, it was just I know I did it. I have, because I did the research and I remember the basics of the script. Though, like I said, it was a mess. And then nothing. It's gone. It's gone from my local Dropbox, and it's gone.
Yeah.
Hey, if you delete Dropbox or uninstall Dropbox and reinstall, you don't think it clears out your local folder, do you? I think I did another reinstall. I don't even know. I have no idea.
Yeah, that would be unkind of it.
I'm so baffled by this.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what to tell you.
I know. And then you finally asked me about it. I'm like, didn't I do it?
Yeah. Because it has happened once or twice that you've put it in the wrong folder.
Right.
Yeah. So I just double check, and it's usually you find it and move it to the right one.
Yeah. And then I went and I'm flipping through all the folders. I'm like, maybe I saved it to my OneDrive. And then finally I did a search, through all the files on my hard, a Windows search where you just type in what you think it is. And I turned up.
You'd ask Cortana to find it for you.
Yeah, I turned off Cortana.
So did I.
I don't need another robot listening to me.
Yeah, I don't need that much help, frankly.
Right?
I know that's weird, but I don't. I don't want things to talk to me unless I specifically talk to them.
I do like...
Even then, I don't want things talking to me sometimes. I'm merely being rhetorical.
I do like, we have, whatchamacallit, we got a new car when we moved up here.
Uh-huh.
Right? And it's got one of those links where you connect your iPhone to the car.
Mm-hmm.
And then through the speaker system, there's like a voice control button you can hit on the steering wheel and then tell your phone what you want it to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of cool. In a computer set course for, the Aldebaran sector, engage kind of a way where I can pretend I live in Star Trek.
There you go. Yeah, I've got kind of the same, this is the same sort of thing that interrupted our podcast recording last week.
Where the car suddenly started talking through your phone.
Yes. The car suddenly started going to the phone and things were, I cut that out, but it was quite surprising there for a minute or two. And it hasn't done that since then. So I don't know what the deal is.
Speaking of which, and I know this is like a really boring topic to bring up. It's not really even a topic. It's just a thing that happened. Sure. We bought, because we're not using the Bluetooth connection for our phones because, Allie and I both use the car. So if it's trying to connect to both Bluetooths when we get into the car, that's a problem. So we have a wire, a USB cord.
It's called Bluetooth, not blue teeth.
Right. So we went to the store and we bought a USB cord just that we could leave in the car at all times that connects to the iPhones. The little iPhone lightning cord.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and I get in the car a few days later and I plug my phone in and it's not working. It's just not finding the phone. The phone isn't charging. Nothing I do is make it, and so I unplug the USB from the car itself. I unplug and replug in the little lightning connector. Nothing. This lightning connector is unidirectional. It's only got contacts on one side.
Oh, that's nasty.
Which I've never seen a lightning, like if you look at your lightning connector for an iPhone, and you look at the end that goes into the phone, it's got a little metal row of contacts on both sides of the thing. Okay. But apparently it only uses one side. And the only reason there's contacts on both sides is so that it doesn't care what direction you plug it in. Right? Apparently this cord only has contacts on one side for no reason I can figure out. But on the little plug itself, to help you remember which side actually goes into your phone, the sides are labeled A, the letter A, and the letter M.
M?
M. A and M. A is in alpha, M as in Michael.
So it only works in the morning? What's the M supposed to mean?
Well, I have no. They're there to label the two different sides so that you can remember if your phone goes on A or if it goes on M. I cannot, for the life of me, figure out what A and M are supposed to stand for. It's the weirdest thing.
Dear listeners, if you happen to know what both A and M stand for, and don't make junk up, just tell us if you know what they are.
If you're gonna guess, I don't need that. Okay, I hate when you ask someone a question and they do not know the answer, but they decide, instead of saying I don't know, they decide that they're going to give their best guess. And then you have to, because there are certain people in my life who, for the stability of my relationship, will not be named here,
right,
who insist on doing that every time I ask a question. And it's like, well, and it's just to the point where I have to ask him or her, Do you know this answer or are you guessing? Because I can come up with reasonable guesses, except in this case, I can't even guess. But so if you're going to guess, I don't need it. But if you have an actual answer as to why you would make a unidirectional lightning cord in the first place and what A and M would stand for, please let me know. This is baffling to me.
Okay.
And while we're on the subject.
Oh, goody.
Listen, USB cables. Right? There's only two ways you could plug, because they have a top and a bottom, which I don't understand why they have to have that either. Okay, right. Why can't they be omnidirectional? But USBs, they have an up and a down, right? There's only two ways they can go in.
Exactly.
Why is it they only fit in the third way you try?
Well, you don't like guesses, so you're on your own.
Right.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
It's like this twisted quantum spin thing where you put it in and it doesn't fit. So you flip it over and it doesn't fit. Then you flip it over again. Now it fits. How? I don't know.
Listeners, if you have an answer to that one.
That isn't a guess. I don't know why I'm so worked up about this, but I'm really, you mentioned I was a little bit jittery this morning because of coffee. I have consumed about twice my normal intake of coffee already this morning.
Awesome.
Yeah. I went out, I got up super early. It was one of those mornings where you wake up well before your alarm.
Sure.
So I jumped into the car and I knew it was like an hour before Allie had to get up so that she could get ready for work and school, and I had to work. So I decided I would take the car, would go out, and I would bring back breakfast burritos and coffee from the local establishments here. We have a wonderful...
aren't you a sweetie? Yeah.
Well, I really wanted the coffee. And we have a really good coffee place here called Manitowoc Coffee.
Oh.
It's a very nice little coffee place. It's quiet. That's one of the things I like. Like I used to, back when I was living in New York, on the weekends, sometimes I would get up in the morning and I would go out early in the morning and I would go up to the Starbucks. And I know that's a cliche. I would take my laptop, go to the Starbucks, work on something and have a cup of coffee and a scone or something.
Sure.
And one day Starbucks decided that, and I don't know when this happened, but it was sometime between living in New York and when I started working for Starbucks. Starbucks decided that they needed a new policy about their music. Okay. And it used to be like Starbucks used to go in and they used to always be playing like, the endless jazz music.
Right.
You know, that the song where you can't tell where one jazz song starts and another one ends, or, where it ends and begins because it just sounds like one continuous song of jazz, or like acoustic music, or what we used to call new age music or whatever. Right. Well, apparently at some point they decided they were going to play pop music. And as someone who worked there, I can say that this was the policy, and they decided that they would have it at a volume that allowed for private conversation. And what that means is not quiet enough that you can hear the people sitting at the table next to you. What it means
That's never what it means.
Right. It means loud enough that you cannot be overheard. Okay, they're ensuring the privacy of your conversation by drowning out your conversation, which is handy except for the people who are in your conversation with you.
Right, because they can't hear it either.
Yeah, and they decided to go with that standard pop music garbage.
Oh, bubblegum pop.
No, like current radio pop.
Oh, that stuff, okay.
Yeah. Like auto-tuned to hell.
Sure.
All that crap. Oh, God.
It's questionable if I know how to sing or not, but as long as I've got auto-tune, I'm going to be hot.
and then they decided that they were also just going to become a hostel for homeless folks. So,
sure.
And that was pretty much when I left the company for a number of reasons, but their corporate policies were among them. And also I no longer needed to work there part-time to sustain myself. So,
right.
Anyway, This coffee shop is what Starbucks used to be.
Oh.
It is comfortable. It is quiet. It plays pleasant music at a low volume so that you can hear yourself think or hear someone sitting at the table with you. Plus they have like a board of, how you add syrup to your latte so you can have like a vanilla latte or whatever?
Sure.
They have 40 different syrups there. Allie and I were looking at they have a little chalkboard where they have handwritten their syrups.
Okay.
And there's 40 of them. That's insane. What are some of these? It's like, do I really need a pineapple latte? That's crazy.
What do you mean, do you really need? Of course you do.
No, pineapple goes in pizza, not coffee. And they have an amaretto syrup, which, quite frankly, if you don't have a liquor license, then amaretto flavor is doing nothing for you. Because amaretto is not something you drink for the flavor.
You want to hear about my new thing?
Sure.
And then you can tell me about your new thing.
Is it a whittling knife?
No, well, I mean, yes, I got some, but I don't want to discuss those.
Okay.
I've discussed those elsewhere. I had like my own little stream, right? Where the whittling stream is done now, by the way. I finally got the dog finished, so that's fine. The thing is, I fired up my computer Tuesday, I guess it was.
Uh-huh.
And was happily working away on it for, 2 hours or so, when all of a sudden I noticed that there was this bright line up the almost middle of the screen.
Oh, right. Yeah, you sent me a picture of that.
Yes, and I looked at it and I thought, well, what is that from? What is causing that to happen? And as I was looking at it, another one appeared, and then another. And it swiftly became apparent that my monitor was, in fact, dying. So I have a new monitor now.
Oh. What did you end up getting?
I got a Dell monitor. I don't feel too bad about that. Normally, I'm not a big fan of Dell.
Mm-hmm.
But we got Dad a Dell monitor for his computer because it was on like a 12-inch flat screen or something for a while, and he was having a hard time seeing things. So we got him a nice big Dell, and it worked out really well. It looks good. It's doing fine, all that etc. stuff. So I don't feel bad about getting a Dell for myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's bigger than the previous monitor because, of course, it is. Nobody ever buys a smaller monitor unless they have to.
Right. Well, that's usually because, if nothing else, when you buy a monitor, it's your other monitor is a few years old at that point.
Right.
And the prices on monitors continually come down. So
yeah,
for the same price point, you just end up with a bigger monitor every time. You just upgrade the size.
My this one now sits atop a dictionary because my desk that it is on is one of those desks that has a little platform on each side of where the monitor would sit.
Right.
It's like a third shelf up there for like speakers and whatever else. Okay. That provides a maximum width that a monitor may be in order to fit between that space. And this one is exactly 1/4 of an inch too wide. So I had to put it up on a dictionary in order to get it up above those shelves. so it wouldn't be crammed in there badly. But that's fine because that accomplishes the other thing I've wanted to do for quite a while, which is get my monitor up higher and easier to look at. So I'm not like looking down at it all the time, because in case you didn't notice, I'm like 6'4", and most of that 6'4"-ness is all upper body.
Right. That explains why I have to look up to see your eyes.
That's right.
Because you are up there.
Yes, my legs are normal sized. My legs are average guy sized, right? Yeah. But my upper body is long. I have a long torso, so I end up sitting higher than other people who are 6'4" might. Anyway, the point being, it's now in a position I like. It looks good. It's doing all the things a monitor does, and it has 2 HDMI inputs, which I discovered recently were going to be important.
And why did 2 HDMI inputs become important?
Well, because my brother has decided he no longer wants his PS4.
Right. Oh, nice.
Yes, he doesn't want it anymore. Nothing, he doesn't. No.
Sorry.
He wants a PS4 Pro.
Right.
So he got a Pro and
Did
a
he get-
Spider-Man thing.
Let me ask a question. Did he get a new TV?
Several months ago.
And that is
Actually,
why he needs
probably
the Pro.
a year ago. Yeah. Yeah, of course. Of course.
Okay. Because
My brother's not shy about spending money.
if you have it, you know.
Yeah, apparently he does. So I'm getting his old PS4, and he's indoctrinating the new PS4 Pro,
Nice.
and that's supposed to show up today. So I need that extra HDMI port to hook it up.
Right. Ooh, and then we could be PS friends.
Yes, we could. Just like we're Nintendo friends.
I don't play my Nintendo. I don't even know which Nintendo we're talking about here. What are we friends on?
We're not.
Oh, okay.
My Nintendo 2DS and the Nintendo Network thingy.
Oh, I don't have a 2DS. I have a 3DS.
No, Allie does.
Yeah, I know.
The 2DS and the 3DS are the same bloomin' thing, except one you don't have to turn the 3D off.
I actually have. Oh, wait, hold on.
Yes. Hello.
Before I forget, since you
Yes.
mention it,
Yes.
can I share my Dell monitor story?
Yes, you may, in fact, share your Dell monitor story. And then I immediately expect you to follow it up with your bed story.
Oh my Well, I only thought of it because of the Dell monitor you just purchased, and I purchased a Dell monitor. I actually purchased a new computer because my computer had died, and Allie needed a computer for school. And I decided if I was getting a new computer, one of the things I do a lot of side-by-side work. You know, where I've got 2 different documents open, and like when you're revising a document, it's handy to just have the 2 screens open. Or like I'll have a map and a document open, and I'll be working like that. So I do a lot of side-by-side work, and I'm like, I'm just going to go to a 2-monitor setup. And, I was browsing around, and I was going to get one of those stands where you can mount 2 different monitors on the same stand. And then just buy a second new monitor because I had already had a monitor. But then I saw they have these really nice, the 34-inch curved monitors that are just like super wide.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'll just go that route because then I'll have plenty of screen real estate.
Totally.
To put everything side by side.
You bet.
So I ordered the new computer. I ordered the 2 new computers. I ordered the monitor. I ordered this whole thing from Dell, which it wasn't a huge price. I think all told it was like, $2,200 or $2,300. So not a huge purchase, but it's up there. It was huge for me.
Sure.
So now Dell, I don't understand. Now I have been a Dell customer for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've always gotten decent computers from Dell, except for that last one that sparked and died suddenly. And it was only 2 years old. That laptop was only 2 years old. And I've always gotten pretty good customer service from Dell. To the point where they'll even do things like if you didn't buy the warranty and then you call them up for service, they'll let you buy the warranty you refused and apply it retroactively to the service you need.
Cool.
Which is nice of them, rather than paying for a service call. So they've always handled things pretty well, and I've been pretty happy with Dell. I am no longer a Dell customer because of this experience. First of all, my computer, something was wrong with the installation of the operating system. They installed the Windows operating system with a license key that had already been used elsewhere. I don't know how the hell they did that.
Okay. Pirates.
Okay. So I had to, maybe it was pirates. I don't know. So I had to call their tech support and that was a pain in the ass in itself because they can't just supply you with a new license key. Or a new installation. They can't just send you a disk or whatever. So anyway, that's done with.
Right.
Meanwhile, I get the brand new monitor. And for whatever reason, they can't just ship all of this stuff at once. Okay? Even though we made no modifications to any of this stuff, It was the computer as it came. It was the laptop as it came. It was the monitor as it came. Okay. They needed weeks to ship some of this stuff. Don't know why. They just did. So finally, the stuff starts trickling in. The new monitor comes first. So I hooked the new monitor up to my old. No, that's not right. The computer came first because I didn't have a computer to hook the monitor to. Computer came first. So I hooked it to my old monitor and then discovered that the operating system was flawed and had to go through that whole rigmarole. Fine. Got that all set up. Got it running. Then the monitor arrives. Hook the new monitor up to the computer. As soon as I turn it on, the monitor appears to be working fine. The Dell logo pops up because the computer's starting up. And then all of a sudden, the Dell monitor starts to brighten and brighten and brighten. And the Dell logo stretches out vertically and turns weird colors. And it does that for about a second. And then, blip, it's fine again. And then 3 or 4 seconds later, it starts to brighten and brighten and brighten. And the image stretches out and warps. And then, blip, it's fine. And it just does this endlessly. So, okay, I don't know what's wrong with it or whatever, but, I figure maybe I hooked something up to the wrong port, or because there's a separate video card in this PC, maybe I had used the wrong HDMI out, or not the HDMI, whatever the other one is.
EVI
or PDV or something. I don't even know. So I figured I used the wrong one, juggled some cables, try it again, same thing. Every couple of seconds, the screen will just brighten and warp, and then blip, go back to fine. So I figured it was a refresh problem, and it was coming from the computer. So then I drop the PDI or whatever cable, and then I just go to a standard HDMI hookup. Try that out. But same thing. I get out the Lenovo and hook that up to the monitor. I mean, I know that this thing is it's going to chug if I try to get it to display on this monitor, but at least I'll be able to see. And sure enough, the monitor is doing exactly the same thing. So, okay, the monitor's no good, clearly. So I call up their tech support. This woman answers the phone, and I'm explaining what the monitor is doing. And she has a really hard time understanding my description. Now, my description was not, I just explained to you what it was doing. You can picture it, right?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, this is a woman for whom English was a second language, as is standard for Dell's customer service.
Right.
And I have no problem with that, except when I am trying to communicate an esoteric technical problem to someone who really needs to understand what's wrong. Okay. So she goes through, and finally she walks me through the same steps and asks, so that we can confirm it really is the monitor is the problem. And I'm like, fine, I know tech support has to do that because of the number of people who have broken the cup holders in their computer and have insisted that the computer is plugged in only to suddenly say, no, it's not plugged in. So they have to go through all those steps. I'm not complaining about that. Finally, she pronounces the monitor is just no good. It's dead on arrival. It needs to be replaced. Well, okay, fine. I still have the packaging. I'm smart enough to keep the packaging. So she's going to ship out the new monitor, and I have to return the old monitor. I said, okay, what's the turn? How long is it going to take me to get the new monitor? And she said, well, it'll take, 5 to 7 business days. And I said, and it's 5 to 7 business. Do you think maybe you could expedite the shipment, considering the first one was bad? Maybe, send it overnight, or, eat the cost a little bit here. And she's like, no, I can't do that. So it's going to be 5 to 7 business days, and now I'm doing this call on a Thursday.
Right.
So she says, so you should have it, by the middle of next week. I said, no. 5 to 7 business days means you're going to ship it tomorrow on Friday. There is no shipping on Saturday or Sunday. I know that. So it could take as long as next week. And then Saturday and Sunday next week don't count as business days. So we're talking Monday or Tuesday. That's 5 to 7 business days. And then she says, yes, but it could take as long as 7 to 10 business days. I said, wait a minute. Do you understand? Now, this is where I was starting to get a little annoyed, because she suddenly changed it. So she said it could take anywhere from 5 to 7 business days to 7 to 10 business days. And I said that, do you understand that the range then is 5 to 10? And she was confused by this concept. In her world, 5 to 7 and 7 to 10 are the minimum and the maximum. And it's like, no, it's 5 to 10 business days is how long this could take, which means considering business days, up to 3 weeks, which is longer than it took for the monitor to arrive the first time.
Right.
But fine, I got to eat, what can I do? I can't drive and get it from their factory, so fine. I got to suck it up, right?
Sure.
And then she says to me, now here's what I need you to do. I'm going to email you a tag number. Okay. Or like a service number.
Sure.
Right. I need you to print out that service number. I need you to flip over your monitor, take a photograph that includes this service number and also the service tag number and serial number on the sticker on the back of your monitor, and email that to me so that I can authorize the shipment of the new monitor.
She doesn't get to just push a button?
Well, no, because she's not waiting for me to send back the monitor.
Right. Okay.
So they need evidence.
Okay.
Sure. so at this point I said to this woman, because the only reason I bought the monitor from Dell is because I was buying a bunch of other stuff from Dell. Otherwise, there's no reason to buy a monitor from Dell. There's a Best Buy up the block in Sheboygan, 25 minutes away, which is up the block here. Because, in rural America, up the block means something different. Up the block can be a half hour away. I think they call it a fur piece.
Well,
yeah, it's a fur piece down the road.
To be fair, in the big city, up the block can be half an hour away too.
Yes, but that's only because you spend, 25 minutes on moving in traffic. Yes. But if you're willing to walk. So anyway, I finally said to her, like, listen, what's the process for just getting this refunded? I'll put the monitor back in its box, tape it up, send it back to you, and you give me my money back, and I will go to Best Buy and just buy a monitor off the shelf. She can't handle this. She's just tech support. So she sends me to what she refers to as the refund department, which I know is a lie. No company in the world has a refund department. Because if a company has to issue enough refunds to warrant an entire department, they're already in trouble. So I get a customer retention specialist. This is how he introduces himself. I'm a customer retention specialist. A customer retention specialist means guy who will talk you out of a refund. Because they don't want to lose the customer. So I explained to him the entire problem again. And then he starts asking me questions like, are you sure it's the monitor? Did you try hooking it up to it? And yes, I have now tried several times hooking it up to different inputs and outputs using different cables and different devices. The monitor is broken. And he said, well, why don't we just have you send back the monitor and we'll send you a replacement? And then I explained to him exactly why that was no longer an option, because I could have a new monitor inside of a day or 5 to 10 business days, whatever that means. And I also explained that I was very upset that the customer support person was having me take photographs and email things, and they were creating a ton of extra work for me just so that I could wait 3 weeks for a monitor that they had sent me broken. And so I was going to go to Best Buy and just buy a monitor off the shelf and let them refund me this monitor. So he launches into the spiel. He says, if you go to Best Buy, they are, the product that they have on the shelf, they're selling you an old product. I said, what are you trying to say? Are you trying to sell me that Best Buy? No, I'm not going to buy a used one. I'm going to buy a new one. And because I think he's trying to warn me that Best Buy repackages used stuff as new.
No. Nothing so subtle.
Which they don't. Right?
Right.
Which they don't, by the way. When you buy something that has been opened, it is labeled open. Okay. No. Okay. So, but no, that's not what he was trying to tell me. He explains, no, I mean, they've had that monitor sitting on the shelf for like 6 months. Whereas here, you're going to get a new one fresh from the factory.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now this is just another obstacle between me and the refund. And I'm getting pissed off. Okay, they sent me a broken product. They're making it difficult for them to replace it. So I'm willing to go shop at another company. And they don't want to give me my money back. So now I'm getting pissed off. And I finally yelled at the guy. I'm like, this isn't a pineapple. It doesn't spoil. It's a monitor. And he says, well, monitors get upgraded and stuff. And I said, that's what firmware upgrades are for. Okay, I have the internet. The firmware will update itself the minute it's plugged into the computer. Give me my money back. And I might have used a swear in there. I might have said, give me my effing money back. And so he decided to yell at me for swearing at him. And I told him at this point, you are being so obstructionist that you are no longer worthy of my respect. And this is, at this point, swearing is the only way, apparently, that I can communicate to you what you need, because you cannot understand this basic concept of give me my money back. And I would like to speak to your supervisor, at which point he hung up on me.
Oh, dear.
He disconnected the call.
Oh, dear. That's not good. He's customer retention, is he?
Yeah, well, because here's the thing. He did not retain me.
Nope.
I will never do business with Dell again.
Job failed.
That is it. There is no excuse. Now, I did call back.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And I got a different customer retention specialist who was utterly shocked by everything that happened, to his credit. Because I told him the whole damn story, okay? I told him everything that had happened, and he was shocked. He said, I should never have received that level of customer service. I said, absolutely right. I should not have. And he said, what can I do for you now? And I said, I want a refund for this monitor. I will send you back the monitor. I have the packaging you shipped it in. I will send it back. And he said, well, I will have UPS come to your apartment. You tell me when, and pick up the monitor from you. You tell me when. I said, I can have it packaged and ready to go as soon as tomorrow. He said, fine. I'm scheduling a UPS pickup. Is this your address? They will come get your monitor. And he said, can I replace the monitor? We're going to pick up the old monitor. I said, well, to be honest, I don't have 3 weeks to wait for a new monitor, especially if I'm shipping this one out tomorrow, which doesn't work anyway. And first he said, well, do you think the problem would be solved with a new cable? I'd love to send you something just to fix it. I said, no, it's not the cable. And I at least he's trying to help. So now I'm being reasonable with him and I'm talking through the whole thing. It's not the cable. It's, it's the monitor itself. He said, fine. They'll come tomorrow, pick up the monitor. Fine. And he's like, can I send you a new monitor? I said, I don't have 3 weeks to wait for the monitor. I could go get it at Best Buy today and be done with this whole issue. And he said, well, listen, I can ship out a monitor and overnight it. Now, it won't necessarily be there tomorrow. I can't promise that. But it's Thursday now. It'll be there by Monday the latest. I can guarantee that. I can FedEx it. It'll leave the factory today or early tomorrow morning, and then it'll take over the weekend. It might even be there sooner. I said, what if I do that for you? And I said, I still can get the monitor from Best Buy today and be done with this. And I frankly don't want to ever do business with Dell again anymore. And he said, well, what if I ship you a new monitor and refund you $100? I said, you know what? Fine, done. Put $100 back on my card, come get the old monitor, send me the new monitor, and then you get the monitor sale. But I said, I am never doing business with Dell again. Okay. And that was it. So sure enough, to his credit, the monitor came. It actually came on Saturday. So it came 2 days earlier than he said it would.
Good.
It's working fine. My computer is working fine. Everything is working fine. But never again with Dell. Okay. I cannot, because the level of what I had to go through to get to that point, you could say, okay, I had a bad customer service experience and there's bad people everywhere.
Sure.
And I agree with that, okay? But there were 2 levels of bad. Because if I had not put up a fight and just accepted what the tech support agent said, I would have been taking pictures and sending emails and waiting 2 to 3 weeks for this monitor to come back in the first place. Okay, the only reason it went any better than that is because I put up a fight. And when I put up a fight, I had to get hung up on and lied to, okay, and then had to call back and go through it all again before it was resolved. So no, it wasn't just there's one bad apple. I had to fight their bad policies, hit a bad apple while fighting, and then beg and plead for the problem to be fixed better. So never again with Dell. Absolutely never again.
Now, would you like me to tell you the big secret of dealing with Dell? You and all the internet, I will tell the big secret of dealing with Dell.
Is it don't?
It's kind of don't, but it also kind of is do, but do it through Amazon. Because here's what I've discovered. All right, my monitor went bad. I got online, spent, a couple hours shifting through options and whatnot. Ended up with a Dell.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I ordered a Dell from Amazon. Got the monitor I wanted. It was sent. It arrived in 2 days. So it arrived, I ordered it Tuesday night. It arrived Thursday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 2 days. Boom. I have the monitor. And I got to looking at the shipping label on the monitor and at the tracking information I was given. Mm-hmm. This monitor came direct from Dell.
Mm-hmm.
Amazon didn't have it in a warehouse anywhere. There's a shipping label on it with my name, my address, and Dell's name and address on it.
Okay. Be that as it may. As a counterpoint,
yes.
The reason I'm dealing directly through Dell is because I have 0% financing through
Dell. And how much good is it going to do you now, huh?
For six months to a year.
Okay.
So you have 6 months to a year. If you pay off, depending on the amount of the purchase you make, if you pay it off within 6 months or within 1 year, then you don't pay any interest.
Right.
So it gives you a chance. Basically, you could buy a bigger thing than you would be able to afford outright.
Sure. And
I have a good record with my Dell financing, and I've used it twice in the past and always paid it off on time. Because, and don't make the mistake of just paying the minimum amounts due, because that's calculated to make sure you're in debt forever. but yeah, so that was the reason that I was dealing directly with Dell. And because their financing options were good. And I built up good credit with them, so that over time, if you have a good record with them, they increase your limit. That's why I could buy $2,500 worth of computer equipment outright, because I didn't have to pay for it all that day.
Yeah.
But I had a year. I now have a year to pay that off, and it'll actually be paid off in 3 months.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, because at that point, if the monitor's bad, you don't call Dell, you call Amazon. You get online with Amazon, and Amazon goes, "Oh, Jesus, yes, we'll fix that," and
right, they'll replace
immediately, and they will. If you say, how long will it take to get here? They'll go, well, 2 or 3 days. And it's like, you go, well, I kind of need it now. And then they go and say things like, well, how about we just ship it to you overnight? And you go, yes, thank you. That would be fine. The other day you showed me a picture of something.
Yes, I did.
Looks strangely like some sort of aircraft control jiggery pokery.
I have to apologize to you, actually. I thought about this the moment I got that. Because I have to apologize, because I always make fun of how addicted you get to things.
Yes.
And then how much money and resources you end up pouring into your latest obsession.
Yes.
Because you can't. I decided I'm into Dragon Quest, so I bought every game ever and 3 new consoles.
Yeah.
I always walk away like, that's not me. I'm not that crazy. Thank goodness.
I get to play Dragon Quest Builders. Oh, carry on.
So I have been playing Elite Dangerous, as I think I may have mentioned on the previous 2 episodes at length.
Once or twice.
The spacecraft sim. And I have branched out to, because there was at least one comment about me optimizing the fun out of my game by discovering that little trade route.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That I mentioned, where I'm just like being a trucker. That's not all I do. When I'm bored doing that, I take on other missions instead. It's just a good way that just to build some money up so that I can upgrade my ships, so that I can have better trade routes and better fighters and things. Anyway, so first I bought the DLC for Elite Dangerous.
Okay.
Right? Which I never buy the DLC.
No.
But that's the DLC that added the option to land on planets and drive little cars around.
Fair enough.
So, and then there's also like you can adjust the cosmetics of your spaceship.
Oh, you mean the paint?
But yeah, you can put paint jobs on your spaceship and have your little your computer can have different voices, like you can change Siri's voice in your cockpit.
Oh.
And you can put decals on the outside and stuff like that. You know, but like bumper stickers and stuff.
So you now have you now on the back of your ship have a little decal that shows the members of your family in stick figure drawings, and they all look like Star Wars characters, and Darth Vader is your co-pilot and all that kind of stuff now?
Yeah, when my land gear comes down, there's a pair of mud flaps that have like the silhouette of the woman on them.
Nice. Nice.
Well, she's a Twi'lek though, because she's got the head tentacles. Right. No, and unfortunately that stuff costs real money.
Oh.
Well, you know the standard, you have to buy their in-game points, and then you can spend their points in their store for cosmetic upgrades like a paint job and some decals and stuff. So I bought a little bit of that. And I never do that either, because that's just ridiculous and absurd, and I make fun of the people who do that. Now, like, I'm not spending real money on this obsession nearly fast enough. You know, it would be really cool. One of those flight stick controllers.
Oh, dear.
Well, then I can, you know, because I play with my headphones on. So then I have the experience of I'm sitting in a real cockpit. You know, you turn the lights out and the big TV takes up your whole field of vision, and you've got so I'm in my spaceship. That's what Allie calls it now. She sees me playing and she's like, "Oh, I see you're in your spaceship." So yeah, I bought a what the heck? This thing is called the Thrustmaster.
Yes, they've been around for years.
Which that sounds like an adult movie actor's name.
Yes.
Right?
But believe it or not, they've been around for years with that name. I think they were around when I bought my first and only flight stick. Years ago and it wasn't for anything that will currently run.
Well, this one's compatible with the PS4.
Oh, good.
Because I'm still playing on the PS4.
Okay.
And the thing, like, it's really cool. It is a very fun experience playing the game with a flight stick, but you have to completely relearn everything. Everything controls completely differently in a way that did not entirely come naturally to me.
Sure. You not being a trained pilot.
Me not being a trained pilot. A space pilot, because spaceships have some extra options for movement that, well, no, I guess like a Harrier
right
has some of these options too.
Okay.
Because in addition to being able to, so it's got, you know, a spaceship flies like your standard spaceship. It's got 3 axes of rotation. You know, you can pitch the nose up and down. You can roll the ship around its horizontal axis.
Sure.
And then you can turn rotate the ship left and right.
Pitch, roll, and yaw.
Pitch, roll, and yaw, right? But then because you're in space and you're not fighting against gravity,
right,
you also have lateral thrusters. So you can just move straight up and down, or straight left and right, or straight forward. Well, straight forward and back is just your throttle.
Yeah. What do they call that? Slide? Something like that.
Yeah, well, it's translation versus attitude. So attitude is the rotation of your ship, and translation is just moving side to side, right, and up and down and left and right. And it just becomes important when landing.
Sure. with you know, and figuring out where your landing gear is.
Right.
Okay.
But it's been a lot of fun, but it's taken a lot of getting used to it, and I've had quite a few incidents with it.
Did you?
I crashed. This is the best. So I got a mission because I've been doing missions for this organization called the Federal Privateers.
Oh, okay. This is different from the government?
They are a corporation that is allied with the federal government.
Okay.
With there's 3 big governments in the universe. There's the Federation, the Independent Pilots Alliance, and the Empire.
Oh.
So, and I decided I would go with the Federation. Yeah. Especially because I like the current president, Zachary Hudson. Well, there's active politics in the game.
Uh-huh.
And there's a number of, within each government, there's a number of power centers. Mm-hmm. And clearly the current 2 frontrunners in the federal government are President Trump and, I guess, Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi or Senator Nancy Pelosi. Oh my God. I'm gonna humiliate myself now.
I'm just going to let you do it.
No, don't do that. She's House Majority Leader. It's House Minority Leader.
So the House is where?
The House of Representatives is she's Representative Nancy Pelosi.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Sorry. Anyway, they are very, like, you read the descriptions of their ethos, and then you realize that Zachary Hudson, the president of the Federation, he got elected 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. That was when they changed the power structure. And it's, oh yeah, I see what you did there. Mm-hmm. So I'm working for Zach Hudson. Yeah. I like his policy on security and free trade.
Right.
So he's doing good for galactic economics.
He's going to build the force wall, right?
Don't even get me started on the whole Thargoid thing. Once you get into space, you have a real problem with illegal aliens. They keep blowing people up. So anyway, I'm working for the Federal Privateers, which, as near as I could tell, is basically a private military corporation that is funded by the federal government. They have mostly I do good things. I shuttle supplies around. Sometimes I take on, I go take out bounties for them and stuff. And occasionally they ask me to do some more shady stuff.
Oh.
Morally gray stuff.
Oh.
Like they asked me to import some narcotics.
Oh. That doesn't sound right, but okay.
Well, there are good legal reasons to use narcotics.
Okay.
They are medical substances.
Okay.
It's just they can't be sold on the open market in any of the systems we live in. So I had to kind of, go out to an independent system that was pretty lawless to find this stuff, which was not easy in itself. And then I had to bring them to a system that was currently experiencing some civil unrest.
What?
And disturbingly enough, after I handed in the narcotics, there was this upsetting message about how the drugs had helped pacify the civil unrest. Which I'm sure they were used for valid medical treatment, and the people who were demanding medical treatment calmed down a little and not drugging their citizens into compliance.
If I didn't know any better, I might suggest that you're a bad man.
Hey, I'm only wanted in systems outside the federal government's purview.
Oh, well, that's all right then.
So I'm only bad to our enemies.
Fine.
Yeah, okay. Again, this is one of those things where I should have asked for some details up front. Uh-huh. But I find those details, it's kind of like, if you're a doctor, you don't want to know too much about the patient you're operating on because then you get emotionally invested. And if you're shipping a highly illegal substance, you don't want to know too much about anybody involved in the transaction because you don't want to get emotionally invested. So the problem is I'm shipping these narcotics into a system where they are technically illegal.
Technically.
By a strict reading of the law that says no narcotics.
Okay.
So the key when you're doing this sort of thing is occasionally around the space stations that you're shipping this stuff to, there are patrols of government ships, mm-hmm. and they will scan ships randomly coming in and out, and check their cargo. And, if you're carrying illegal cargo, you get in trouble.
Well, surely they're easy enough to avoid.
I haven't really figured out the trick to avoid them. The trick to avoid them seems to be cross your fingers and hope that they're scanning other people.
Oh.
It's just kind of like drive casual and hope they don't notice you.
Right.
So this was, so I'm in the middle of this mission. I had finally located some narcotics, and I had to locate a lot of them. We needed a lot of illegal drugs for what we were doing.
Because there's all those people that need care.
Right, they need care. So I finally found I had to go through 3 different systems to get them all, get it all in my ship, and then I park and I stop for the night, and I'm like, I'll continue playing tomorrow. And that night, my new flight stick had come. So I'm like, okay, I'll hook it up and, I'll try it out. But my cargo hold is full of illegal narcotics, and I'm taking my flight stick out for its first ride.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm trying to land so I have to bring this stuff to a spaceport, and it's one of these big city-sized space, or like almost a moon-sized spaceport. So you have to fly. It's a rotating spaceport. You have to fly through this opening in the spaceport itself, into the docking area, and then find your docking bay, and then crash, and then land, not crash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how you tell how much of a pilot you are. Is it a landing or a crash? And how much one way or the other? Yeah, exactly.
How many hit points do you have after you shut off the ship?
Exactly. That's your measure.
So I'm having a little bit of trouble, and, because one of the things you have to do is you have to match the rotation of the airlock with your ship. Which is tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and some of the buttons weren't mapped properly and whatever, so I had to keep pausing and remapping. But I'm playing it's an online game, and I'm playing in the open world so that everybody can play. So the pause technically doesn't pause so much as just stop your ship dead and the world keeps going around you.
Okay.
So while I'm paused resetting my controller, I don't realize that one of these cops is starting to move in my direction. I reset my controller, unpause the game, and immediately slam myself full force into the door jamb around the airlock, wiping out my shields and destroying half my hull.
Mm-hmm.
And now, because my engines are still going full throttle, I'm just like ramming it, like I'm trying to burrow through the wall.
Right.
So like, oh crap, and my hull damage is going down. So like, now I'm throttling back, and the throttle is extremely sensitive. Fortunately, the acceleration in my ship is not.
Mm-hmm.
So I slam it into reverse just as I get this message that my ship is being scanned.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like, great. Because now I'm going to get caught with this cargo hold full of narcotics. Because apparently, so as far from the cop's perspective, as he started to move in my direction, I panicked and ran into the side of the space station casually. I then reversed and rammed into the cop.
And we've already learned that that's basically assault.
Apparently, that's a little bit of assault.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So now, all of a sudden, now my communication board is lighting up with these messages of, you've remember the scene in Fifth Element, where it's like, 1 point has been removed from your license. Where Bruce Willis is driving the cab around.
Right.
Basically, all the points were removed from my license right then and there, and I racked up about $200,000 worth of fines for illegal cargo and assaulting a cop and various other infractions.
Just to check, how much was your cargo worth?
$3.2 million.
Oh well, that 200,000 is really going to slow you down, isn't it?
Yeah, it was really a slap on the wrist, right? For shipping illegal drugs and then running over a cop in your car. Mm-hmm. I can't help but feel that we do need some stiffer sentencing. So, in the next election, I don't know if Zach Hudson's going to have my vote. Actually, no, that's not true. I want to keep him in power because this is pretty lucrative for me.
Oh, yeah, true.
So then I finally managed to make it into the starport because then you have to trudge over to the DMV and pay all your fines off before you can trade in the starport now.
Mm-hmm.
So and now as I'm approaching my landing pad, I go to drop my landing gear because you need that.
Mm-hmm. I discovered that.
Yeah, and unfortunately, my landing gear is mapped to the same button as my turbo boost. So I have to hold down the turbo boost and hit a directional button. And I tried to do it quick because I was coming in a little fast and out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And now you're coming in a little faster and more out of control?
I got there fast. I hit that landing pad fast.
Cool.
I shaved a lot of time off my landing.
That's good.
Yeah. My shields hadn't quite come back. So, I spent another 15 to 20,000 repairing my hull.
Mm.
And I sold the narcotics. So it was a great day. Can I make a quick appeal to the audience?
You can.
Okay. So here's the deal. We have a new car, right? As I mentioned, we needed a car now that we're not living in the city. Mm-hmm. And so that means I'm driving again. Where I was not driving when I was in Chicago. I don't drive often. I go out occasionally, I'll take a 20-minute drive up to the store or whatever, maybe a couple of times a week. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that used to be podcast listening time.
Right.
Okay. I need some podcasts.
Uh-oh.
But I already get my news, and I try not to listen to too much news because I find it just leaves me depressed.
Right.
So my news and politics, I get that already. And I'm not interested in, like learning and informational podcasts. They're nice and all, but I also just want to listen to some fun stuff. Uh-huh. And I really just want either a good comedy podcast or a good video game podcast, specifically retro gaming, and anything that gives sort of an intelligent deep dive.
Uh-oh.
Like the Mark Brown stuff. That
You're in trouble now.
I know I am. And I can't find anything to listen to. And because I only drive occasionally, for 20 minutes to a half hour at a time, I'm not going, it can't be anything where you have to listen to every episode. So please, yes, I know about Welcome to Night Vale as a good comedy podcast. And no, I can't keep up with that because you have to listen every week. Or, but I just need stuff where you can, you look through the thing and you're like, oh, they did an episode on Castlevania, or they did an episode on new releases coming out this week or whatever. Cause it doesn't have to be retro. I like video games in general, and where you could just look through and pick out one episode and just listen to it. And you don't have to listen to the episodes in order or anything. If anybody knows of anything like that, put it in the comments. Just to fill my time while I'm driving.
How far down the list of iTunes podcasts and whatnot have you trolled?
Not that far. Oh, and by the way, I'm using an iPhone, so preferably anything available on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or whatever it is.
See, for things like that, where it's clearly not the main choice of those people producing shows like that, I always tend to start at as far down at the very bottom of the list as I can, and then work my way up.
Okay.
In terms of popularity and that kind of stuff, And it usually, for me at least, within the first 30 or 40 seconds, I know whether I'm going to be able to listen to a thing or not.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take that
like
long.
This morning, I immediately eliminated 2 podcasts from the list as things I can't listen to. Mm-hmm. And one other condition, and I know this might piss off a few people, and I don't care. I don't give a flying care about the political or social issues in video games. And anybody who talks about that stuff can go talk to someone else. The minute a podcast descends into that garbage, I'm done with that podcast. So please don't include suggestions of stuff that are going to tell me, whether whether a game is problematic for whatever reason, or deals with issues, or is inclusive, or whatever. I don't care. It's boring.
Okay.
All right. So.
Thou hast been warned.
You made me read last week, and I did not find it a pleasant experience.
Okay. TheBoundFenrir comments on episode 48 on YouTube. Yes, we are on YouTube. Digressions and Dragons on YouTube. Just do a search there in the search bar. You'll find us on YouTube.
Wait, we're on YouTube?
Yes, we're on YouTube. TheBoundFenrir comments on episode 48. He quoted us as saying, if you're not paying for a service, you're the thing being sold. And
yep,
then
we did say that.
We did, yes. And then remarked, in a game store, if you're a free rider, then you're part of the service being sold to the people who do buy stuff. A community of gamers to hang out and play games with. And then I had to shut down the internet because he had won it.
Yeah, that's a really apt observation. And one I hadn't really thought about, but here's the problem. Is that now game stores need to figure out a way to actually capitalize on that commodity.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Perhaps what game stores should be doing, or part of what they should be doing, is coordinating those people who need games with those people who already have games.
So like a gaming dating site?
Yeah, except, actual in-store kind of, Billy Joe Jim Bob needs an extra player at his, tournament of Fady Doom game, and Edvard the Munchkin over here is looking for a game to get into, so maybe I tell Edvard to go talk to Billy Bob Jim Bob or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be formal or anything like that. It's not like, and now for your selection of gamers, you may choose from one of these three.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, back in the day, game stores used to have this thing. I remember, so it's like, the stuff that they make corks out of, wine corks?
Yeah, it's called cork.
Yeah. So imagine you take a cork and you pound it into a big flat sheet.
Okay, I'm imagining.
And you stick it to a wall, a big flat sheet of this cork. And then what people could do is they could take a little thumbtack. It's just a little nail that you could drive in with your thumb. And put pieces of paper on that board that could be easily taken down and put up and whatever. And people used to write on these pieces of paper that they were looking for gamers.
So are you looking for an angel investor for this concept that you're proposing here?
I think I'm going to kickstart it.
Do you need a funding round, do you?
Yeah. I think that's the best idea. Like, we could market this directly to game designers.
That would be awesome.
Or not game designers, to game store owners. It's basically an analog website for gamer meet and greets, but restricted totally to your local area.
What have you already got like a future, like improved version of that in the works planned already?
Well, I'm thinking that you could make it bigger if we could figure out a way to pound the cork flatter and bigger.
Sure.
Perhaps put two of them side by side.
Oh.
And
so
then,
you can sell multiples of the same thing.
Well, right, but what
you would
have is, imagine if you had a dedicated one for RPGs and then a dedicated one for like card games and a dedicated one for war games.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have a whole product line of these. And each one is effectively just what's that website that does this? Meetup. It is an exclusive meetup only for attendees of your store that does not require an always-on internet connection to access.
Oh, wow. But does it have Wi-Fi?
It does not. It does not need Wi-Fi, which reduces your overhead costs.
So it's a self-contained system.
It is utterly self-contained.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
The only thing is, actually, it's really easy to update because all you need is, thumbtacks.
I feel like I could steal your Kickstarter thunder here, and maybe do this thing with like a sheet of melamine. You know what melamine? It's kind of a white plasticky thing.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
I feel like I could outdo your Kickstarter if I went with one of these things where you take a sheet of melamine and, like you were saying, nail it to a wall or whatever, or stick it up on a wall.
Right.
And just let people, there'd be like a little marker or something. You could put a marker next to it, and people could put, what they wanted, names, phone numbers, whatever, next to things like that as well.
Yeah, well, hey, that's fine if you think people want the extra expense of melamine when simple cork. And especially when you consider all of the versatile options of actually laying out your message, because you have a sheet of paper and you can prepare the message in advance at home.
Oh,
so you could write specific details on there, or you could maybe even draw little pictures, or even print them out from a computer if you wanted to use a computer to prepare your message. So, you know. But I mean, that's fine. If you want to go the melamine and marker route and require someone to tediously stand there and write each letter while in the game store, and also erasing and cleaning.
I feel like though yours is going to have a higher maintenance cost, because you're gonna have a harder time keeping those messages fresh and timely, and kind of up to date. If they're a physical piece of paper, it's going to be a lot harder to keep that up to date than it would be if you just walked over to like a sheet of melamine and sort of with a towel or a cloth, or you could even do an eraser, a big felt kind of eraser sort of thing if you really wanted to, but you could just walk over there and wipe out the relevant section. If you're going to change times, you could, and then just rewrite the times in, or if your phone number changes, you just wipe it out and then rewrite your phone number in, and it takes mere moments. Whereas doing it your way, you'd have to go all the way back home, print out a new piece of paper, or acquire a new piece of paper from somewhere. That's another tree down,
right?
And then write upon it the details which you think have changed or now need to be replaced. Because I feel like that's such a great effort that most people aren't going to do that.
Okay, but on the other side, the people who are interested in your advertisement, say, when you have written your information on this piece of melamine with a marker, how do they hold this information until they're ready to act on it? They obviously have to write it down anyway. They're going to transfer it to a piece of paper or put it in their phone, and their phone might be dead at the moment, or it might be in the car. They might not have it with them or whatever. Whereas if it's a piece of paper, you could actually feather the bottom of the piece of paper with cuts and perforations with multiple copies of your contact information that a person could simply tear off and put in their pocket. Okay, that's an option you just don't get with the marker.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
But by the same token, if you do keep your phone up to date and charged, which most normal people manage to do, you could just call that number while you're standing right there at the melamine.
Oh yeah, because you get great reception in game stores all the time. Actually, sir.
Yes.
Let me ask you a question. Why are we fighting about this?
I don't know. Why don't we do both?
Because, this is what I'm saying is we have two lines of products. We partner up, and we have the basic line, and then we have the melamine line, the cork line and the melamine line.
That sounds good.
So that you can decide which features are most important to you, which will work best for your stores and your customers.
We should totally get on that. Kickstart that right away, would you?
Yep.
Does Jim
I'm now an expert at running Kickstarter. Oh, sure.
Yes.
I'm sure he does.
Yeah. Jim McClure.
I'm sure
he'll get in on this. A couple of bucks for him, a couple of bucks for us.
Meanwhile, in post, you will edit this entire discussion out so nobody can scoop us on this idea, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, definitely. I certainly won't forget to do that. Okay, now how do you charge for that, though, is the question.
You have to buy the corkboard.
Yeah, but how do you charge your customers for the privilege of putting things on your corkboard or your melamine?
That's not my problem. I'm making the corkboard. I just have to convince people to buy it.
Malachi RC.
The radio-controlled messenger.
That's right. Commented on episode 48. He says you missed the best part of the trolley problem episode on The Good Place, is what he is referring to. Season 2, episode 3, 4. One of those. You missed the best part of the trolley problem episode. There is a real trolley problem in the episode, because that's the episode where Janice starts glitching and asks Michael to kill her to save the group, and he can't, even though it's logical.
Huh. I did miss that, but more importantly, sir, while you were arguing with me about my opinions about season 2, which remain unchanged despite this one poor example. I mean, it was a poor example on my part.
Right.
Because I was using it as an example of how they didn't really build on the ethics in each episode. But there we go. They clearly did. Why didn't you bring that up?
I forgot to. I forgot to.
It is an excellent point.
I was a bad person. I was a bad fan. Didn't remember every little detail. Didn't mention every little detail. I'm a failure. I'll stop being a fan immediately.
By the way, I got through 2 episodes of that podcast.
Uh-huh.
And then was bored by it.
Okay. Fair enough.
A podcast of detailed discussion about a show, once you get past how the show was created, is far less interesting than the show itself.
Okay.
So when I listened to the first interview, I listened to the first episode, which was where he actually interviewed
Michael Schur.
The guy Michael Schur, who created the show, about the creation of the show. And a lot of the points I brought up in discussing season 1 and season 2 were almost echoed word for word in that interview.
Yeah.
Like the idea of burning out on a premise very quickly.
Yep.
Which he was so cognizant of. And I still don't feel that. I think all he did was extend that problem. I don't think he solved it.
Okay.
No. But
no, that's fine. I wanted just to throw it in front of you in case it was going to be something you would find long-term interest in, but you didn't, so that's fine. I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's fine. We can enjoy different things.
We're different people.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, we totally forgot about the whole trolley thing that was actually in the trolley thing episode. We're not good. We're bad. Water Finds a Crack?
Yeah.
Apparently it's by Soren Johnson, who is a person I've never heard of, but I appear to have played his games.
Yeah, he's a game designer who works at Firaxis Games.
Mm-hmm.
And among other things, he was involved in the development of Civilization 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
And this was an article that got posted in my Discord chat.
Right.
And I'm not sure why it got posted, and I don't remember who posted it because I'm terrible.
Sure. Established.
But, yeah, thank you, whoever it was, for whatever reason it was. And it's interesting because it's a topic that we discussed, we hit on a few times about players, optimizing the fun out of games. Which came up last week, even when we were talking about Elite Dangerous and how I had found an effective way to make money that was the most boring way to play the game imaginable.
Sure.
To the point where I had to buy a whole new controller to make the game harder. But as I was reading through this article, and he talks about, it goes in sort of a different route than what we usually talk about, where it's, if you leave an optimal strategy in the game, a player will take the fun out of the game for themselves. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that he also led into was hybrid class builds in MMOs. And he used the example of the tank mage in Ultima Online, which was a class build that could wear heavy armor and cast the most powerful damaging spells. So what it effectively covered 2 different character roles, which is the tank who is supposed to take the damage and protect the party, and who wins by basically outlasting everything, and the damage dealer, or the DPSer, or the striker who kills foes faster than they can kill him. Right?
The nuke. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, the nuker. And this character class encompassed both of them, which is, basically meant it was the most viable build in the game, and to the point where all other builds were a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of, and actually there's a, I think I grabbed a quote, but the reason to kill tank mages is that a single dominant strategy actually takes away choice from a game because all other options are provably suboptimal. The sweet spot for game design is when a specific decision is right in some circumstances, but not in others, with a wide gray area between the 2 extremes. Games lose their dynamic quality once strategy emerges that dominates under all conditions. And I found that argument weak, but it got me thinking about something else, right? Because this has been a complaint in D&D sometimes. In 3rd edition, there was a term. Do you remember the term Codzilla? COD-Zilla?
Kind of, vaguely.
It referred to the fact that a well-built cleric or druid could fill any role in the party.
Oh, right.
And switch, because of their versatility and their spell selection, could switch between those roles at a moment's notice. So they were tank mages, the whole shebang. They were healers, they were tanks, they were DPSers, they were support. And so they became the only class worth playing. Cleric
was an exceptional generalist.
Yes. Yeah, and to a lesser extent now, wizards in the past had always filled that role. Once you got beyond a certain level with being a wizard in early editions of the game, you didn't need the party. You did everything. You had your defensive spells, your offensive spells, everything. 4th edition was actually the best at curbing that. And then they stepped away from it with 5th edition, where wizards and clerics especially are again very versatile, and druids are broken.
Mm-hmm.
So, but here, like, I have thoughts on this, but like I keep running into a problem. Okay. Like, so obviously, if you have options in a game that are provably suboptimal, then you might as well not have those options in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's an okay argument, because basically you've wasted design resources, because there are limited resources in designing something that people are never going to see. Okay, because most people will eventually figure out the optimal strategy and just use it over and over again. Except I don't think that's inevitably the case. Especially in a tabletop role-playing game, because there's more that goes into character choice than just what is the most powerful.
People will create a variety of characters for a variety of reasons, and only a handful of those will be to be the most powerful thing or the most survivable thing or whatever.
Right. And then you get to have all the arguments about how, if you're not making the most powerful character you can, are you hurting your party? And that's always a delightful argument, and the alternative argument from certain corners of the internet that any measure of power gaming and optimizing is the wrong way to play and makes people miserable, and should therefore be excluded from the game, which as far as practical solutions go, is impossible anyway.
Sure.
Right. There's always going to be, you're not going to have perfect balance.
There's always an optimal build. Even if you constantly remove whatever appears to be the most optimal build at that moment, then the next build, the one that was slightly suboptimal to that one, becomes the optimal build.
Right. And that sort of illustrates this point, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because let's say you started your game and you designed 100 different classes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And among them, there are some, because there is never going to be perfect balance, and there are always going to be incomparables, okay? You are going to end up with some classes that are weaker than the other classes in a variety of situations, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, by this logic, you eliminate all of those. Let's say you eliminate the 50 weakest classes, because 100 classes is too many.
Sure.
Right? So now you have a list of 50 classes. But you're still gonna be able to put them on a list of, more powerful to less powerful, especially when you consider the fact that versatility is a strength in every situation.
Sure.
But being specialized is more of a strength than versatility in that one specific situation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So if you have a character who is specialized in combat, then that character is going to be more powerful in combat than a character who is versatile that can also pull off combat. That's just the way it's going to work out, right? I mean, specialization is more powerful in its specialty than versatility. Otherwise, you design specialization badly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're always going to be able to game specialization, because not every situation will come up in every game. And the stakes are not always, like in a role-playing game, the stakes are always highest in combat because you can die in combat, right? So it's almost always a failing, basically a failure to give up combat power for anything that isn't combat. if only because the risks of losing a combat are so high. And in a game like Dungeons & Dragons, there's always going to be at least one combat in every session, you know? Whereas if you lose a negotiation, the adventure might become harder or whatever, but negotiations that will kill your character are extremely rare. Okay, so obviously any character specialized in combat is more powerful than any character that is versatile and can also do combat. So if you keep following all of this logic down and down and down and down, eventually you are going to eliminate all options from your game except one, or maybe 3 or 2, right?
All right, well, if you follow it all the way down, it's entirely possible you have to start all over again.
Right. But if you don't follow it all the way down, then it becomes an argument of how much imbalance is okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how far or how much more powerful does the single dominant strategy actually have to be than all of the other strategies before you say, okay, it's, you know, having these multiple options are worth it, you know?
Mm-hmm. I don't know, because I'm not the one designing the game, but I would imagine that decision is going to be based on how exactly I want the game to play and how much control I want to have over how the game is played.
Mm-hmm. But do you think, like, at a tabletop role-playing game, do you think it's possible to make too much of this whole class imbalance thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Because as far as I can tell, all right, and again, we play different styles of game.
Yes, we do.
As far as I can tell, imbalance is only a problem if you allow it to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you just... It doesn't require a mechanical solution. It doesn't require a solution that writes it, you know, makes it impossible in the game to do that or whatever. It requires, in a tabletop game, all it requires is the GM looking at a guy who's running something that everyone agrees is an unbalanced character, an optimal build character, and decide whether or not he's making the game less fun or more fun for the various players, or making it harder to have different kinds of fun, or whatever, however you want to term that.
Right.
And if it's a problem, you address it. You say, "Hey, Joe, it's a great character and all. I'm really happy that you've optimized things so much and you found this path, and I understand you really enjoy it. But Sally and Billy aren't getting to do anything, and they're not having as much fun. So I'm just wondering if we could maybe come up with a character that kind of does the same stuff, or adjust this character a little bit, but still allows them to have a chance to play, or maybe just change your play style." Or, you know, whatever the conversation is going to be.
Yeah, basically a handicap.
Yeah, kind of.
Right, like a handicap at golf to sort of level the playing field.
Uh-huh.
You know, which, you know, honestly, that's interesting. I mean, this is sort of a wacky idea here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you do have power gamers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people who want to play the most powerful characters they can.
Sure. And right? Honestly, they're entitled to, if that's what they want to play.
Right. But why do they want to play the most powerful characters they can play?
Well, like, some will say it's compensation for not having any power at all in their own lives.
Okay, that's a fine reason.
Sure. Others will say they just enjoy the experience. You know, it ticks all the right boxes for them.
Right. You know, some will say they like, you know, they're in the game to win. And they want to give themselves the best chance to win, and they actually view character generation as part of that game.
Right.
Right?
Sure.
So, since those are the sort of people who are actually seeking an active challenge anyway, for the most part, right?
Yes.
One way or another, they want to feel powerful, but they also need to feel challenged. What if the GM did have a handicap system, where if the GM starts to feel that one character is drastically overpowered versus another, he can go to the player and say, "Hey, okay, your character," and this is all spelled out in the rules. It has to be spelled out in the rules so that like the GM can put your character in a power tier. Like, say your character's power is over 9,000. Not mechanically, but subjectively.
Right.
Okay. But if it reaches that point, what the GM can then do is either ask you to scale back your character or offer you a handicap, a piece of kryptonite, something that allows you to play the character you've been playing already, but gives a weakness that has to be overcome. You know, like let's say you're a barbarian and you are an extremely powerful barbarian. And you're at that point where you're destroying every fight and you're making things worse for all the other players. Okay. So it's like, okay, fine. Here's the thing. You can keep playing this character because, you know, and you're extremely powerful. Good job. You made a really good character.
Yeah. We're all very impressed.
Right. But here's the problem is it's wrecking the game for everybody else. So I'm invoking Rule 99 Alpha in your player's handbook. You can check it out. And if you don't like it, you know, you can make a new character instead. But here's what it's going to be. Every round you spend in Barbarian Rage adds a penalty to the die roll you have to make to come out of Barbarian Rage. And if you fail that die roll and all the enemies are dead, you stay in the Barbarian Rage and keep fighting anything alive around you.
You know, there are certain types of players who wouldn't see that as a problem, but
right.
But yeah, no, it's a possibility. I think. See, this is the other thing. Okay, now I've just said the very thing that is the problem with you know, quote unquote air quotes here. The problem with power gamers and things like, you know, that kind of stuff, min-maxers, power gamers, whatever you want to call them, is that there are those who would, but by the same token, there are those who won't.
Right.
So how much of a problem is it really?
Well, then those people can make a new character. You know, but okay. So here's the thing with power gaming. This is not where I thought this was going to go.
No. Okay.
Okay. So there's a couple of arguments that get made against power gaming, that get made. The problem is power gaming. Right. And one of those arguments is, as the GM, I have to set appropriate challenges for the party. Right. And if the power gamer is so drastically more powerful than the rest of the party, then setting an appropriate challenge for the power gamer threatens to kill the rest of the party in the process. And setting an appropriate challenge for the rest of the party does not challenge the power gamer at all. Right? And I find that argument invalid because you don't set challenges for individual members of the party. You consider the entirety of the party. Right? I mean, the party is all level 5 characters, so you give them level 5 challenges. And just you leave it at that. And if the power gamer has optimized the fun out of the game, well, then isn't it for them to come to you and say, hey, listen, I don't feel like this game is challenging me. And then you turn around and say, well, look, you exploited every feat combo you could in the book, and you broke the game for yourself. You know, that's on you. So your solution is make a new character. Right? So that's the first argument. The second argument is that the power gamer makes the other players feel bad because he wins everything.
Right.
Right? Which that's sort of like a hockey player going to the coach and saying, hey, listen, ever since you drafted this Wayne Gretzky guy, I feel like he's scoring all the points and I'm not doing anything, you know? So could we drop him maybe?
Yeah,
or maybe we can break
him?
his legs. You know? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's the most absurd thing ever for a team to say, well, that guy's too good to be on our team. You know, but there are a certain number of certain people out there who do value their participation in the game.
Sure.
Right. Where if they do not feel as if they're having the same level of participation, honestly, no, because these people want to feel like that they have a spotlight.
Right.
They play because they want a spotlight. They're, expression seekers, which is which is fine. But when they turn around and say, well, this guy's making me feel, like I don't get the spotlight because he's, his character's too strong. Well, that's sort of them saying, well, you have to tell him to stop having his fun because I can't have my fun. It's like, okay, well, whose fun wins there? Don't we need to find a place in the middle? It's like, yes, the power gamer dominates combat, but combat isn't all that the game is. And if you need to have a special spotlight, maybe you chose the wrong special spotlight, maybe you make a different character. Make the talkie character, or the skill monkey, or the lore expert, or the find another way to seize the spotlight because that spotlight was already taken by someone who's better at it than you,
Mm-hmm.
But either way, sorry.
It's weird, I think. It's weird that people seem to prefer to have their solutions handed to them. Mm-hmm. Either be a rules tweaking or whatever, or explicit designer commentary or let's just say outside sources, okay?
Mm-hmm.
They prefer their solutions from outside sources rather than from inside, which would be, talking to somebody who's being something of a problem for whatever reason.
Or just talking to the GM
or
and
talking
having the GM address the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
sit everybody down and say, okay, here's how it's going to be.
For 10 minutes, pretend you're all adults.
Mm-hmm.
And talk and listen to each other and see if you can come up with a solution together rather than having to say, okay, this, you're not allowed to do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I always feel like the gaming community gets worked up about things that aren't really the size of problem they claim they are.
Yeah.
It's like an individual personal, because I've gamed with power gamers before.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally I'm the power gamer.
Mm-hmm.
It's just working with the rest of the table to make sure everybody's involved somehow. I'm not I have never been the power gamer that, just charged off regardless and took care of everything. And then that was it. So I kind of wanted as a player to make sure that, the cleric was doing cleric-y things or had an opportunity to be a cleric and the rogue had an opportunity to be a rogue and get his backstabs in or whatever. And, the wizard was, protected and at the same time capable of launching his, missile attacks. I don't know where comes the people that are just like, no, I must do everything. I have to be the best at every single thing ever. I don't know where they come from, and I don't know why they get to the table. And then I don't know why people will not directly address them and the difficulties they cause. And I don't understand.
I obviously, if we start to discuss this, we can veer into, kids these days and how people are being raised and improper socialization and all of that stuff.
Sure, we could.
Though there is a funny observation to be made there without getting into that heavy stuff.
Uh-huh.
And it is traditionally role-playing games were for nerds, right?
Right.
People who had, let's just say, below average social skills.
Yeah, the practical definition of nerd is somebody who lacks in the social skills department.
Right. And yet these games rely very heavily on very, very complex social contracts and social agreements.
Right. In fact, to the point where people will hold up RPGs as useful tools for developing social skills.
Right. But the problem there is that only works if the person running the game themselves has good social skills.
Right.
Actually, no, that's not true.
Yes,
because because you can have, how do most kids learn their social skills?
Mimicking.
Okay, partly. But But like, okay, so you have a problem with a group of friends, right? Let's say you and a group of friends, there's an argument between two of you,
Uh-huh.
and you personally, you don't want the group of friends to break up,
Right.
and you have seen this argument, and you're young, you're still working out how, you're a teenager,
Right.
right? So what do you generally do? You get involved and you tinker with the problem, and maybe your solution works and you end up with a stable circle of friends again, and maybe it doesn't and someone leaves the circle and you feel bad. But
Mm-hmm.
either way, you're learning social skills that way,
Right.
by having to deal with real social problems.
Sure.
It,
But the trick of it
maybe
is, and I know we don't want to get too far afield on this, okay?
Right.
The trick of it is you don't need somebody who is really, really good at social skills to mimic.
Right.
You just need somebody who's a little bit better than you.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it takes.
Okay, agreed.
I mean, we're both right, okay? This
Yeah.
is the thing. You start out with mimicry and that kind of stuff. You learn to copy what others do, that kind of thing. And then as you process that, you think about it in terms of how you can apply it, and then you practice the skill.
Yeah, actually that makes sense, because that's most skills. You start off by being taught and instructed till you gain a basic proficiency.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, you have the capability to explore the skill on your own.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm glad we covered that. Now,
Yeah. Me too.
about this article.
Yeah. I don't remember the point.
I will tell you. Okay.
Okay.
I will tell you a couple of things related directly to this article. It is human nature. It is human nature to get the greatest reward for the least amount of effort. Okay.
Right.
That is all part of building efficiency. All right. I want the biggest output for the least input.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's evolution.
It does not matter whether you kill various kinds of builds and other imbalances. It does not matter, because there will always be a least input, most output solution,
Mm-hmm.
as long as there are a set of rules.
Yeah.
Okay. So killing it doesn't work. You can unencourage it, or as we say in the business, discourage it, but that's about as far as you can get. And even then, it is still, some people just prefer to play that way, and you have to learn and work at playing with those people rather than shunning them.
Mm-hmm.
Which I feel like is a lot of where how to, quote unquote, how to deal with people is leaning. Is no, you just don't associate with them.
Right.
You don't play with them. You don't like what they do. You don't game with them. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm the first person to say you don't have to game with people you don't like for whatever reason.
Right.
Okay. That's not a requirement. But I'm also the first person to say, however, you should try to learn to work with as many people as you can.
Right.
Okay?
If you limit that pool, you will eventually end up playing alone.
Right.
Right. But is there room in your two? I realize they're not opposite statements, but they are
Right.
sort of different endpoints. Is there room between there for not playing with people you like, but whose idea of fun is incompatible with yours?
There is, but that the room in that space comes after you've put forth a reasonable effort to try to work with them or play with them, however you want to state it.
Yeah.
Okay. You really, really only give up on people when they have given up themselves.
And then this, on that same point though, here's another question. And I realize part of the problem that we're going to have discussing any of this is that depending on where you live and whether or not you're willing to run games online, you may not have a critical mass of people available to be picky, which is another criteria. That part, unfortunately, that's part of what decides whether you can be picky or not.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Take my example. I don't run games locally anymore at all because I've been through the crowd and there's nobody I care to game with anymore. I've tried I've made reasonable efforts with everyone to try to work with them and game with them and all that kind of stuff. And we've just reached an impasse. The available pool here is, for me, not available.
Right.
Okay. Their games that they are playing or running or whatever are not games I am happy participating in. I don't have any fun. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no local group whatsoever.
Right.
All right. I do have people I enjoy gaming with, and I will occasionally get them together. They're all online.
Right.
Right. But that's where my groups are now. Yeah. So that's when I game, that's where they are.
And online is actually a really good example of this, because I was going to say, let's take that out of the equation. Let's assume you have an infinite pool of gamers, or a practically infinite pool of gamers.
Pretty much.
So you can afford to be picky and choosy.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an argument to be made for weight class? That is to say, you have power gamers, and they're really good at being power gamers.
Mm-hmm.
Should they only play with other power gamers against GMs who are very good at challenging power gamers?
Well, the temptation is to say, yes, certainly they should do that. And then we all remember the lesson that I sometimes forget. Should is really, really different than must.
Yeah, I know. We're speaking hypothetically here. But I mean, like, it's... So I started reading the Pathfinder playtest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and there's this whole really awful section in the introduction to the book that starts off with the heading "Gaming is for all."
Right.
And it's the standard appeal that, to inclusion and all of that crap. But built into it is this supposition that everybody is owed a seat at every table, that you as a GM have a duty to basically open up a seat at your table to any human being with absolutely no judgment on who that person might be and if you would even enjoy playing with them. Now, I'm not talking about... I'm sorry?
Any human being?
Essentially. Because here's the thing. While, yes, they're trying to make a point about racism and sexism and transphobia and all of that other stuff, right? Don't exclude someone on the basis of this or that or whatever. But what they end up effectively saying in there is that if you're a GM, you have a duty to allow any human being to sit down at your table and make the game fun for every person who has decided to sit down. And I'm not talking about the skin color and the race and stuff here. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about things like compatibility in the types of games you enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Things like, I am a power gamer and I really like just cutting through swaths of monsters. And the person sitting next to me hates combat and they are a character actor who absolutely always needs to be in the spotlight to be having fun. Those are very incompatible styles of game.
Right.
That is a zero-sum game. In every scene, person A is enjoying, person B is not happy. Okay? And so person A will always be seeking the combats, and person B will always be seeking the role-playing opportunities. And if there's a situation that can be resolved either way, those two are going to come to blows about how it should be solved because they both want what they want, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I have a table of 4 of those power gamers and one of those spotlight-seeking character actors, the best thing for that table is to tell that spotlight-seeking character actor, and this is including for the spotlight-seeking character actor, the best thing for everybody at that table is for me to tell that person that a different group would work better for them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you then responsible for setting up that group, that different group?
Oh, absolutely not. See, this is the thing. As a GM, like, there is this presupposition that as a GM, you accept this gigantic responsibility to the game and the community and every player ever, that you somehow serve the community like you signed up for an army. And frankly, no. I mean, no, you are entirely responsible. It's a hobby. It's a game. You're responsible for nothing other than whether or not you're having fun. And every person at that table is responsible to decide only whether they are or are not having fun.
Mm-hmm.
When there is an argument where somebody isn't having fun and things aren't working, then obviously social convention dictates, if you want to keep having a social experience with other people, that you try to address that as adult social human beings, right? Otherwise you end up alone and you can't play these games alone.
It's very difficult.
But none of that requires you to take on this giant responsibility to the entire community where I must provide a place for absolutely everyone in the game, you know? Again, I'm just talking about compatibility of fun here. I don't even want to get into bigger issues.
The thing is, okay, you're right. I do not necessarily take on the obligation of representing absolutely everybody and the community and all that stuff. That is not technically my problem.
Mm-hmm.
But the difficulty is that those who are outside of the community, learning about the community through what you do, are going to do the one represents all thinking error.
Uh-huh.
Where they look at the behavior of one individual involved in a thing and assume that all individuals involved in that thing are like that.
So?
I know. It's still not really your problem.
Right. I bought a game.
Yes, you bought a game.
I paid for a game, and in return, I get to play the game.
Yes.
Okay.
But I just feel like it's not that you have to be beholden to that. You should just, I think, just be cognizant that is what happens. And of course, that's not so much going to happen if the only place you game is in your house.
Well, sure.
Okay.
But, and I do agree that as a moral person, because I consider myself to be a moral person.
Right.
That, yes, I do accept that on some level I will be taken as a representative of my hobby. And therefore I do try to present the hobby in the best light possible. Okay. And I think that is the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I also understand that is a personal moral choice. That is what I personally feel is morally right. I have no power to impose that on anybody else. And while I could make an impact, I could argue it. I could say to other people, "Hey, listen, here's how this works out." Okay, if everybody makes the game look bad, so that nobody new wants to come into the game, and a bunch of people leave the game community, then number one, you will not be able to find players anymore because eventually there will not be any players to go around. Number two, the game companies will go out of business, which means number three, there won't be any games, which means number four, you've lost the hobby.
Right.
Okay. That is the argument for what you should consider when deciding whether or not you want to act as a representative of the game. But that's a logical, that's a rational, reasonable argument for the consequences of it, for, moral consequentialism here. Right.
Uh-huh. Sure.
And that I can say, and that is something that the Pathfinder rulebook could spell out, but I do not have the right to go to, I mean, you have the right to say whatever you want. So I could come to you, Brian, and say, look, you are playing these games. You have a duty to do this. And if you don't, you are terrible.
Okay.
I mean, I can say that.
Sure. But I don't have to listen to it.
Right. And I certainly can't expect that to improve anything. Because there's a certain number of people who are just going to listen to that and say, F you.
Mm-hmm. It's
a game I spent money on, and I'm just playing a game. And if people don't like the way I play a game, well, they can go play their own game, And the other part of the argument is, if the appearance of the game is so important to the continued existence of the game, isn't that the problem of the people who make money publishing the game? Shouldn't they be presenting,
Wait.
Yeah, I know. I see where I just walked into my own trap there.
No. Are you suggesting that the people who publish and create the game have a responsibility to build and maintain the community around that game?
No. I mean, okay. No, I don't. Okay. What I'm suggesting is they have a financial interest in doing so.
Right.
Otherwise, they're out of business.
Right. That's not the same thing in your head.
No, it's not. Okay. Well, because, I mean, number one, I do not ask morality of any company.
Okay.
No company makes moral choices. And if they do make moral choices, they're running a company wrong. Okay. That is why there are laws and regulations, because a company exists to serve the interest of the owners of those companies, to make a profit, to maximize the investment that was put in the company. Mm-hmm. Okay. And that is why companies exist, because a whole bunch of people put their money together and said, we will invest in this and we expect a return on that investment. That is a company's only duty. That is the only promise a company makes to anyone. Okay. If people don't want a company to do unfair or illegal or terrible things, or do what we would consider to be immoral things, that is why we have rules and regulations that we, the people that around these companies, that we impose those rules on the companies. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I never expect morality from a company, and anyone who does not understand what a company is. And any company that holds itself to a moral standard is failing in its duty to its owners. Okay. And I realize that. So I don't talk about companies in terms. You'll notice I did talk about my own moral duty to the hobby and said, yes, I accept that as a moral person, I should do this and that and the other thing. But as soon as we're talking about Wizards of the Coast, the company, okay, no, I can't impose a moral imperative on them, especially because there's no such moral entity as Wizards of the Coast. Okay. There's a CEO, there's a president, there's a board of directors, there's shareholders, there's employees, there's a Mike Merles, there's a Chris Perkins, and a Jeremy Crawford, and yada, yada, yada. And each and every one of those people has a moral code by which they live, presumably. Whatever that moral code might look like.
Sure. It can be good or bad. Whatever it is, there is one.
Right. And you working for a company, you cannot be expected to give up your own moral code to serve that company. So, the company should not be agreeing on a moral code, because they would be imposing that on their employees, and they would be failing their duty to their shareholders. I'm not talking like companies should be immoral. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is companies and morality exist in two different worlds, and never the two shall meet. Because the minute you try to impose the one on the other, you start to find all sorts of problems. Okay. You find the incompatibilities in the ideas of what a company is and what a moral decision is. That doesn't mean that a particular manager at a company, if given the order to, dump this toxic waste in a river in a third world country that does not have laws against dumping toxic waste in a river, won't come forth and say, I was asked to do this. This is a terrible thing. Number one, I will not do it. Number two, I think the public should know it. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. That is, that person is doing what they feel is their moral duty to the world. And I wholeheartedly support that. But the company itself cannot be said to make moral decisions, because that's not how moral decisions work. The company is a machine for maximizing profit. It is individuals inside a company who will make moral decisions. The same company, the CEO of a company could say, no, I'm not going to do that because it's not illegal, but it's immoral. And then that's the CEO being a good person. But if the shareholders turn around and say, well, it's not illegal, we want you to do it to maximize our profit, well, then the CEO has to make a decision. It's like, you could be out of a job. Your shareholders could vote you out, or the board of directors could vote you out, because you are putting your moral code above your duty to the business. And that's fine. Again, that's for the company to work out, and the shareholders and governments and laws and whatever. But I will not impose morality on a company. And I think it's naive for anyone to expect that. What was your question?
Don't remember.
Okay.
but it has certainly been answered.
Okay.
This is a topic I want to come back to.
Okay, which one?
This whole thing about who is responsible for doing what in the community and all that. I feel like we're going to come back to this a lot just naturally, but it's one I want to make a specific point to come back to at a future date.
So you're saying start show notes number 50 and put that in there.
Yes.
Yeah,
do that thing.
I will take care of that. But in the meanwhile, I'm sorry. I realized that I just went really, really, really far afield. But I want to. What just happened to me is that you asked me some questions about morality versus capitalism and companies and yada, yada, yada. And in being asked those questions, I suddenly discovered that there was a gap in my moral philosophy that had never addressed these issues. And me babbling about all of that was me trying to reconcile the things I believe in. Yeah. So it was one of those situations where I'm learning more about what I believe in because you asked me a question that I really couldn't answer.
Yeah.
I reserve the right to revise my thoughts as I think about this.
Sure.
Because but I really do. I don't expect morality of a company. It's foolish to. But the question is why, and why would I let a company off the hook if I am also a moral person? Can I call myself moral? Oh, I've had an existential crisis.
Well, I guess you and your existential crisis will just have to sort yourselves out because we're out of time.